Folks, hey, so today's reading, Smelly Solar Farts. Yeah, a recent letter to the editor in the Arizona Daily Star highlighted what the author thinks is a problem with solar power. According to that author, the process for making solar panels requires a lot of like purified silicon, which he says is the first step. Just the first step alone requires millions of tons of coal, coke, charcoal, and wood chips. He further goes to state that the natural resources, rare earth elements needed, are not only vast, but also underneath forests, which then need to be cleared in order to mine them. In all, he's basically asserting that the solar industry produces megatons of carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide, and at the same time negatively impacts the natural resources such as forests, water, and rare minerals. I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of factual, truths contained in these statements. Like how much really is true and not sure. It seems like the overall assertion fails to take into account the greater picture for me, anyways. I do agree that solar panels and associated equipment don't come without an impact. Indeed, they require raw materials and they have to be mined and refined and manufactured. But so what? It's not like any method of electrical power is free from the same problems, right? I mean, gas and coal has to be mined and then burned. Wind turbines require much the same as the solar panels, right? All that stuff has to be mined and refined and built, and that all takes energy. Same thing with nuclear power. Some folks might say nuclear power is, a little bit longer lasting for the kind of like the waste impact, but, more concentrated. So maybe less of an impact from a kind of global warming impact. I think like one of a pretty good example is if we look at electric cars, right? The same argument crops up. Electric cars have to be charged. The electricity still has to be produced. They still have a carbon footprint. All true. But the idea is the centrally bulk produced electricity is far more efficient than individually produced in thousands of cars, right? Like, have you ever been on the street and been behind like that blue smoke blowing car, right? The guy with the bad rings burning oil, and that's all over the place, right? Especially here in Tucson. It's expensive to fix cars, and people have a hard time keeping them up. So if you have one central plant that's burning really efficient, right? What's got a better chance, right, of being efficient? The central professionally operated power plant that's run by educated folks, or the random chance of every single car out there having the owner having the money to repair it and the willing to repair it, and all of that. You really need to look no further than the emission testing programs required in Tucson and Phoenix. And there are other angles and issues that could be taken into account here too. Like for instance, the power grid. It had a cost to build and it has a cost to maintain. It's aging, and some say very vulnerable, right? So adding solar power to individual homes across Tucson or across the nation helps to bolster that grid by taking load off of that grid. So there's less load on the grid, and the grid is a little bit more able to be flexible, right? We can have lots of arguments and discussions about it, but generally, if you can get your home power in your home and be independent somewhat of the grid, then that frees up the grid to maybe possibly do some different things or better things, right? So if you're looking at getting solar in Tucson, get on the waiting list for the Tucson Solar Insider Desk Guide for buying solar. All right, guys, have a good one. Thanks for listening. Talk to you later. Goodbye.